Hello, everyone. Welcome to the NASEO Davis-Bacon Act and LCPtracker training for states and territories. We'll give people just a moment to log in, and then we'll get started. All right. As people are joining, and in the interest of time, we will get started. Welcome to the NASEO Davis-Bacon Act and LCPtracker training for states and territories. We're excited to have you all join today. I first of all want to thank you, the Department of Energy, and especially the speakers and the GDO team for participating today and helping set this up. This webinar came out of requests from the DOE NASEO Grid Resilience Grant Implementation Cohort, and this is actually part of a two-part meeting of the cohort today. So the first hour will be the webinar, and the second hour will be the normal cohort meeting. So just a reminder for all the cohort participants that will be joining in our normal Zoom room after this webinar. Before we get started, I just wanted to go over a few logistical items. This webinar is being recorded, and the slides and the recording will be made available after the webinar. Participants are muted. If you have any questions, there were a number of questions that were pre-submitted, so thank you for those. But if you have any additional questions throughout the webinar, please put them in the Q&A box, and we will get to those questions during the Q&A time at the end of the webinar. With that, and without further ado, I will turn it over to Gary.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Gary Piles. I'm a senior advisor to the Deputy Undersecretary for Infrastructure on cross-cutting regulatory issues. I'm here today in my capacity as the contracting officer's representative for our Davis-Bacon Act compliance approach with Team Accenture. I'm also joined by several colleagues from Team Accenture and from DOE as well, from our program office and our general counsel. And so all of us will be working together today as part of this presentation and also answering questions. We are going to share this slide deck. After the presentation today, we'll capture any additional questions, or if we need to clarify our understanding of the questions, we'll do that. We will be sharing that. But I can say that our Davis-Bacon Act website is up. It continues to be upgraded, but we are open for business, if you will. With that, I do want a baseline. Let's talk briefly about Davis-Bacon Act, talk about our compliance approach, and then we're going to turn towards issues that you have shared with us. We want to talk about the level of effort. How much time is this going to take? We have the ability to do some live demonstration. We're going to hold off on SAM and LCPtracker. We do have screenshots of LCPtracker, but we do want to pull up our website because that's a good resource to identify where the guide is. Again, Josh Smith, who is on the line here, and other members from Team Accenture are going to dive into, hey, how do we get people in LCPtracker? How do we get projects? How do we get wage determinations? And deep dive into that. And then we have about 3 slides that have some of your questions that we plan on answering. And again, you may want to hold off towards the end with questions, as we may be covering those there. With that, just fundamentally, we say DBA, Davis-Bacon Act. Again, the original DBA came around in the 30s. What is DEBRA or DBRA is Davis-Bacon Related Act. It requires pay on a weekly basis, which we're going to talk about. We know that's an issue. And fundamentally, there's base and fringe rates that have to be paid. And those rates are set by the Department of Labor. And just a reminder that those are a floor, it's a ceiling. So folks can be paid above those rates, which in many instances is the case. And just for reference there, since we are bill related, there's section 41101. And again, technically this is DEBRA, but Davis-Bacon is the parlance that is used most common. Fundamentally, we're talking about construction type work that's done by folks that are skilled craft. Department of Labor, again, sets these out. It's sam.gov. You can go in there today, put in your geographic location by zip code, the type of work, construction, and look and see exactly what the labor categories, rates, and fringe are. The Act requires that those companies, if you will, that are doing the Davis-Bacon work and are responsible for those individuals, they need to take action. They need to pay and understand what the requirements are, and they have to certify that they indeed paid weekly and they paid what was required, and they're truthful in it. So that's kind of the fundamental actions required that we're talking about here today. In our standard funding opportunities announcements, we do have DBA clauses. I want to talk to these briefly because it allows us to talk to some of the issues related to this. Again, wage determinations and clauses are required to be flowed down to your subrecipients. We understand that some projects don't know where the work is going to take place and what's going to be done exactly. But nevertheless, when that is known, that information needs to be flown down. If there's any errors, there's a responsibility to fix it in contract space. And again, we have to state that there is responsibility for DBA compliance. There's an expectation, as we'll talk about here earlier, to actually go in and look at those certified payrolls when they come in, maintaining those. In the past, some of you that were around in ARA times, when we did all this in paper, we would spend a lot of time and money storing paper copies of payrolls. We intend to do that electronically, ourselves and for you as well, using those submissions. This next one is just for situational awareness that you can do on-site interviews of employees. Again, this language is as necessary. This tends to be for your rather large, significant projects, or if perhaps you have a project that you're seeing issues with or hearing from the Department of Labor. Finally, speaking of the Department of Labor, they can definitely, in the right situations, come on to site for security and Davis-Bacon type activities, and we all need to cooperate in that event. Finally, flowing this down, your subrecipients need to post posters, and if anything does arise, there's a duty to notify. The last one is not specifically Davis-Bacon compliance. It's actually related to reporting, and this is the semi-annual report that is due April 21st and October 21st. And again, on our website, there is a link to submit this electronically. So you've heard of LCPtracker. What are we talking about? It's a commercial software tool that's built to assist with compliance with DBA. For us, Department of Energy, it is required. We are providing it to you, and you have the ability to provide it to your recipients. They do not need to pull out a credit card and pay and sign up for anything. It is our system. When I say pay, it's a reminder that this is not a payroll system in which individuals are paid through. Instead, it is a compliance system. What does it do? It allows for monitoring of compliance to see that indeed construction companies, if you will, have submitted their payrolls, for example. Once your projects are up and running, you can run reports automatically and pull matrix, and so can we. As you can imagine, we will have oversight over our entire portfolio of DBA work, both for S3 and S4. It does allow for project oversight. If work is supposed to be taking place, you should expect to see Davis-Bacon Act type activity, for example. And last but not least is this tool allows us to get away from paper, from the days when we did 347s that had to be mailed in, and you'd have to have a paper copy of the payroll and a paper copy of the wage determination, and you'd have to go line by line to make sure that those base and fringe rates were accurate, for example. The basic operation is the tool allows for payroll to be uploaded. Again, these are for your subrecipients, the folks doing the work. And then it sends it through a validation engine. In a minute here, we'll show a slide that reflects commercial payroll systems that already are compliant or working with LCPtracker that can allow for upload. If one of those systems are not being used by your subrecipients, then there is a process in which an Excel spreadsheet can be completed to, again, allow for this automation. And we did have a question related to that. So just to be clear, the Excel spreadsheet is only if a subrecipient is not using one of the more common payroll systems. Being electronic, it's 24/7. And to be clear, since we are requiring this for our own use and recipient use, we needed to review this product, and we put it through our rigorous security scrutiny. Our parlance is ATO, or authorization to operate, that has preliminary been received. And I can tell you that is an enduring action. And LCPtracker did take affirmative changes and suggestions in order to be compliant. For example, we'll talk here shortly about the fact that you have two-factor authentication, as you will. Because as you imagine, this system does contain personal information, people's names, how much they get paid, their address. And so we do limit this. Again, we'll talk shortly about when you first sign up, we're going to have to meet like this and share your ID card, and same with your subrecipients as well, just for that initial setup and to be consistent with these security standards. And quickly, some of you, if you're familiar with the construction industry, you'll see a lot of names here that are familiar, such as ADT, Paycom, and so forth. When I talked earlier about validations, we're talking about dozens. And these catch some of the most common errors that recipients or subrecipients make. The hourly rate could be off, the total hours mathematically exceeded, the 40 hours per se, which kicks into overtime and double time, fringe Bridget contributions. And if there's an apprentice, then we need to make sure that those are certified. Those errors can be flagged and corrected through this. And then when it's all said and done, electronic signature, and it's uploaded. And in some cases, this can take a matter of minutes to complete. So, a little history is coming out of ARA. We knew we needed to modernize and not utilize the paper process. And we combined resources and went through a full procurement and awarded to Team Accenture, who is technically our prime contractor. They provide our management and professional services on a day-to-day basis. They also, on the security side, maintain and support that authorization to operate. We have LCPtracker. I believe we have Darren on the line. They are the ones providing the software solution. They also upload wage determinations and provide regular weekly training. They also, during the execution phase, if you will, there's chat, there's help desk functions as well. And last but not least, we have our RER Solutions, our small business, who is actively assisting with onboarding. And in addition, as we go more into the implementation phase, they're here to do cradle to grave type activities related to Davis-Bacon Act as needed. And with that, I was going to turn it over to Josh Smith, who's going to present for the next little bit before we turn to questions and answers with starting off with what's the level of effort related to all this. So Josh, over to you.
Thanks, Gary. Yeah, so this is the level of effort chart, level of activity that we put together as it pertains to getting into LCPtracker and just doing other functions and actions within the system as well. This is pretty much just a handful of actions that can be taken. Kind of as you see the note at the bottom, this is not all inclusive. But here you'll see for us adding new users and projects to the system, the team Accenture, what else we'll call the DBA compliance support team. We've been leading the charge on getting users added to the system, projects, and working with the LCPtracker team on getting the wage determination set up in the back end of the system. So as you'll see adding sub-tier users that's on the recipient and subs. Once I'll discuss more later, but once we give the recipients access to the system, you have that ownership to add your contractors and subcontractors and so forth. And then you have your wage determinations, which if we have time, I'm sure we will screen share the sam.gov website where you would go to identify your wage determinations and then communicate those wage determinations over to the support team, and then LCPtracker goes into the system and adds the wage determinations as you see here. And so forth. The LCPtracker team provides the user training, users take users training, and then it's on the user to submit, approve, and accept payroll. And then also in the monitoring aspect, and then DOE, TPOs, contract officers, their officers, they also have play in the monitoring aspect, but also Team Accenture with RER audits of the system that they'll be conducting as well. But as you see the frequencies on the right-hand side, give you a glimpse on the time perspective of what it would take to do some of these activities. I think we can go to the next slide there, Gary.
I think I just add to that. I think we had a specific question related to once we're up and running, what's the time commitment? Again, as you'll see, this is all electronically based, and we could see perhaps maybe an hour. If you're, have a portfolio of projects, an hour a week to log in and look at some of these activities. Sorry, Josh, I'm trying to get to advance. There we are.
This slide and the next slide pretty much covers the submit, approve, and accept actions in the system. And as you see, we have links to guides that go into way more detail than what we have here on the screen. With the submit, the contractor guide is the reference, which will provide detailed steps on submitting payrolls, which we kind of already mentioned somewhat of if you're using one of the commercial partnering systems, there's like an automatic upload aspect. And if you're using a payroll system that isn't one of the commercial partners to LCPtracker, there's another workaround using Excel spreadsheets there. And then there's the approved certifying payrolls, which when signing up, if you're the personnel to approve payrolls, you'll be given the prime approver access to the system. So you're able to go in to the system and monitor and approve certified payrolls. Go to the next slide. And then also accept certified payrolls. So once the prime approver approves, the accepting party will accept or reject based on if the certified payroll is up to compliance. And then, Gary, I don't know if you want to show the website now or towards the end, right before Q&A, like
Let's
after
let's hold off to show it to the end just to make sure the slides are working.
Okay. Okay. Yep. And you go to the next slide. So here are different screenshots that we have from LCPtracker. Here is the certifications tab that most admins will see. Oh, go ahead. Would you about to say something? Yeah, you're fine. So the certification page, which is probably used by most admins on the admin side of the LCPtracker system. From here, you have different ways of searching and filtering through. You can filter down by a specific project, and then even further by the contractor's name, the payroll week ending date, the payroll number, and other search key identifiers to hone in on the specific payroll report that you may be searching for. Also, you'll kind of see it in the middle-ish of the bottom table where it says View CPR, and there's a PDF button there. You're able to open the certified payroll to where you can view it, and then also be able to view the statement of compliance. So Gary, if you go to the next page, that will show what that looks like. I did not notice how animation. Yes.
Payroll,
Okay.
and there's certification. Fancy.
Yeah. So this is what you'll see when you click on the View PDF button. Here we have the Reports tab. The Reports tab, the admins, which most will be like the business manager role or limited admin role. We have access to over 100 standard reports. As you can see, we got different apprentice reports, compliance, custom list, management, special reports, and so forth. Even demographics on the workforce there at the bottom. And then in the list reports, it's not shown here, but the list reports, you're able to drill down into the projects that is underneath your umbrella, and you can see the different metrics with the projects and users there.
Yeah, I'll add they're really helpful. We've been able to pull up and see, wow, you have X number of plumbers. This percentage of them are women, minorities. It's really interesting insight.
Yeah, and then also there was an active insights button at the top. If you have the right access, you're able to see the reporting in like a Power BI data visualization dashboard type of interactive report as well. Yep, you can go to the next slide. This slide here is what the contractors will see when they log in. The admin view is different from the contractor view. As you can see, there's new tabs here. For the payroll records tab, notices, and the certification tab. Excuse me. So there are 4 different options for how contractors can do their payrolls. You can do it manually. They can do it by copying the previous week and changing dates, hours, etc. And then by uploading records from a payroll system that are the commercial partners, as we mentioned a few slides ago, or by the workaround if your payroll system isn't one of the partnering systems to utilize the manual upload with the Excel spreadsheet. Yep. So here, these are 2 examples of what a contractor will see. The first one on the left is the manual entry, and the second one is what they will see if they're utilizing the uploading by file. So the second one on the right is using an Excel sheet, and the one on the left is manually uploading the time into the system. And then here, after the entry is completed, there's a check button on the second tab. Any notices triggers that is something wrong with the information entered, or anything that that come out of the validation check that is being done by the system. So all those 70 plus validation checks that were discussed a couple slides ago, if there was any errors or any warnings, this is where those would pop up and alert you. And this is the certification with the e-signature. So once all the validations are done, basically the certification process begins. You're able to choose the week ending date, payroll number, and then move into the e-signature on the statement of compliance. This all leads to having an easy way to read compliance certified payrolls ready for submittal to the prime contractor, who then will review before submitting to the DOE.
Hey, Josh, just real quick, we did have a question that this slide kind of answers on the left-hand side where it says work performed this week. There's some selections there if you weren't doing work, just for reference.
And so this slide here, currently, correct me if I'm wrong, Dan, but it's bi-weekly, and in the term bi-weekly, Tuesday, Thursday, every 2 weeks training that's currently going on. So to request access to those trainings, send an email to this email address here, and then also there's some on-demand training once you get access to LCPtracker as well. There's some on-demand training of different modules that you can read and listen to as well. So now, before you can access those on-demand trainings, this is a process that we laid out on getting set up in LCPtracker. So the first step so we've allowed this process here, you'll see it discuss getting your project set up in the system first, and then the user will get set up to attach to a project. We've also allowed alternative ways to where users can get access to the system, so you can get a feel for the system, get to the on-demand trainings, so you know how to utilize and navigate the system prior to actually having to submit payrolls and have to meet these different requirements. But what we have laid out here is the prime recipient. You collect all your project information, your award dates, bid advertisement dates, project name, department name, project code, the wage determination number, and you will submit the project intake form along with the wage entry request form. Here we have it send it to your DOE TPO for them to review and making sure the information is accurate. And then that information is shared to the DBA compliance support team. Once that information is shared with DBA compliance support team, the wage entry request form will go to the LCPtracker team to create the wage determination into the back end of the system. And then once that is created in the system, when I say we, myself and my teammate Manuela here with RER, we're able to create your project in the system. And once that is created, like I said, this part here is interchangeably. You can get the user access while all this is going on, because that takes a little bit of time for the wage determination to get set up in the back end and the project gets set up. So in the meantime, while that's working in the back end, the user, the prime recipient, will fill out an admin intake form to where you're just really providing your name, email address, what level of access you want, and what department or projects you need to be assigned to. So when you submit your admin intake form, you'll see towards the bottom, you have to do a ID verification call. So if Gary was wanting access, we'll set up literally it only takes 1 minute. We'll set up a call. We're both on the screen here. And if you're a DOE personnel, you just show your PIV card, and we're capturing your first name, last name, making sure what's on the form matches your ID card, and then the expiration date. If you're not DOE personnel, we ask for 2 forms of identification. So that can be a driver's license, passport, military card, what have you. And we have a whole list of different forms of identification that you can choose from. So after that call, like I said, 1-2 minute call, we capture your name and expiration date of your card. And Will and I will go into the system, we'll create your account. And once you have, you as a prime recipient, once you have that business manager admin access, you're then able to do the same process with your own staff or contractors that you need to add to the system. So you would then also do the same ID check, verification checks with them, and you're able to add the personnel into the system. And then by the contractor intake form, you're able to put in your contractors' information into the system as well. I think I covered it all here. So one thing I do want to note, as you'll see in the red box at the bottom, this process here that we have laid out is very email traffic, PDF forms, very intensive in that manner. So as you can, the downfalls to that, latency and responses, PDFs falling through, or, just all the email traffic that's going back and forth. So we've created a new solution that will reduce email exchanges, promote data accuracy, and increase the timeliness of user and project setup. If you would like to go to the next slide, Gary. So this is just a screenshot of the admin intake form. So if you remember what I just said shortly, the ID verification call, like we would be emailing back and forth. And, there's a latency between email within the DOE network to external users. The emails can take 5 minutes, 10 minutes to get through, and you're trying to schedule time to meet and get the ID verifications done. So we've implemented this new process to help improve that. So currently we have it where it's a Microsoft form. So anyone within the DOE or external to the DOE are able to access the link. You're able to access it on your laptop, and you're also able to access it and fill out on your mobile device as well. So once you fill out the form, you'll complete it. You'll receive this confirmation email on next steps. And as you see, we have the list of forms of identification that you will bring to the ID verification call. And then also, as you see, the second sentence in that email says, next you need to reserve a time slot with the LCPtracker support team to verify your identity. Click here. And when you click here, it will go to a Microsoft Bookings to where you're able to schedule an ID verification call with just anyone, which it'll just be Manuel and I, or you can do a drop-down list and select either myself or Manuela. And what that'll do is that'll show you our availability for the next day, actually. So today is Friday. If you click the link and you try to schedule time for 4 o'clock today, it's not going to let you schedule on the same exact day, but you'll see my availability for Monday. So just want to make sure that's clear as well. If you're like, hey, I need this done today, it's only going to show availability for starting the next day. So you fill out your information, name, email, any special requests or notes, and then it will automatically schedule a meeting between ourselves and yourself. And we'll move forward with doing the ID verification call, and then we'll go ahead and set you up into the system. On the other hand, we don't have screenshots of this on here, but for like your project intake form, when you fill out your project intake form, you'll fill it out, you'll still receive this confirmation email, but also the confirmation email will go to the project point of contact that you list on your project intake form to alert them of, you know, you've entered in this form. So it provides that form of communication and version history as well. And you may ask, well, where are these forms going when we submit them? Basically, we've created a way to where it will go into a backend SharePoint list. So it'll create a backlog for the support team to work, and it also helps with checks and balances and traceability. And we have version history and all that good stuff going on to where we can have the information saved and readily available. Next slide. Jody, did you want to hit this slide?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi, good afternoon. I'm Jody Wooten. I'm GDO's DBA Assurance Lead, and we've developed standard naming conventions for all of our state's departments. So each state will have a department since you'll have multiple subawards. Therefore, we also standardized the naming convention for your projects, and this helps for us to crosswalk all of our data within LCPtracker. I would suggest working with your TPO, your federal project officer, and confirm with them the actual name of the projects or your department, so they can get you into the right format and everything prior to you filling out the form, especially when we go to the online version. And also they will be alerted if you put them as the contact for the project. Thank you.
Thanks, Jody. Here, these are the links to the current forms. Once we go live, which the go live is set for next week, I believe, next Friday, I believe, these links will change to the Microsoft Forms links. These links currently are to the PDFs. So just want to make sure, make that aware. I'm guessing when these slides are shared, we can just go ahead and probably switch it to the forms link so you have the correct links there. And also you'll see you have the sam.gov link to where you can go and find your wage determination based off the state and county. And then also we have the admin login link to where it gives a description of the different roles within LCPtracker. So what you will have access to if you were a business manager or a limited admin, project manager, or read-only access, or if you're a prime approver, what do you have access to, and what actions are you allowed to take within the system. And then the last link is the link to our website, our DBA website, which we will also be updating with the new process here in the next week. So yeah. Next slide. And these are key reminders. DOE, Compliance Support Team, we only create accounts for prime recipient staff. Once admin access is given to the prime recipient staff, they're able to create accounts for additional staff, contractors, and subcontractors. Also, to get access to the system, I know we have in person, but we're in a virtual workspace currently. So through Zoom, Teams, whatever virtual manner, to provide your ID as a ID check. Also, as I mentioned earlier, the admin role can be created in the LCPtracker system at any point throughout the process that we've laid out. If your project does not already exist in the system, you can still be added to the system and aligned later once your project is created. One thing I would note here, if you are given access to the system prior to your project being created, you will not be able to see any of your project, nothing in the system. You will mainly just be able to really take the trainings, the on-demand trainings, click around, get a look and feel of the functionality and user interface of the system. Also, lastly, once a project is established, users may be removed or added to specific projects. And then also users can be assigned to multiple projects as well. Next slide. Yep, so here's our shared inbox slide. Next slide. A shared inbox email. So any additional questions regarding the setup process, please feel free to reach out to us, and we look forward to working with you. I think the next slide is Q&A. Gary, I think your mic went out. Okay, you're on mute now.
Gary, we still can't hear you.
Yeah, I think he dropped. I don't, oh, no, he's black. The screen is black.
Okay, sorry, everybody. Stand by for technical difficulties.
I
Maybe
should be able to share my screen, but I know he's like the main point for the Q&A, the questions that's funny.
maybe while Gary is trying to come back, I do have a few questions in the Zoom Q&A. Oh, he's reconnecting. Can you hear us, Gary? Gary, can you hear us?
Just looking. Probably dial in by phone if you call yourself.
Yes, I will work with him on calling in. There was a question in the chat, and maybe you can answer while I work with Gary, is what constitutes a project? Does each address or each contract constitute a project?
Yeah, I would like Jody, you wanna?
Matthew, I think this is more for you, for the states. The states are the award recipient, the prime recipient of the 4101D, and then they have subawards, and each one of the subawards is the project. Is that correct, Matthew?
That is correct, yes.
We had another question in the Q&A area. Maybe Darren can help field this question, or Josh and Manuela. How do we conduct process of verification ID and entering subrecipients and their subcontractors into LCPtracker?
Yeah, so the a verifying ID would be the same as if you were needing access and I was giving you access. We would sit down on a Teams call, Zoom call, whatever your virtual component, or I mean, if you're in the office with whomever you need to give access to. Pretty much, like I said, provide two forms of identification. Make sure the names that's on the forms match the identifications, and then once you've verified things match up, once you're in the system, there's a setup tab, and you're able to go in and add a user into the system. If you're adding users, and then there's a tab to where you can set up contractors, and contractors in the sense of like the contracting company, the specific utility company, which that is covered in the trainings, in the twice a week bi-weekly trainings as well.
And then this one could be for Darren. Is the data secure in both in transit and at rest? And I think that, Stephanie, is that the use of LCPtracker?
Yes, I think that's what Stephanie meant.
Yes, Stephanie, the data is secure. I mean, it's out, it's in the cloud. We have consistent testing all the time going on. Your information is secure out in the cloud. Yes.
And Gary, can you hear us yet? No. So John Sullivan, maybe you can help me answer this question. Is a wage determination needed for a state energy office for its own staff? We won't be performing any construction, alteration, or repair.
Then no. If there's no covered DBA work, you would not need to pull a wage determination because there wouldn't be one anyway, because it's work classification specific. Does that answer it?
Martin, does that answer his question?
I think so. Jody, the participants are muted, so.
Okay, thank you. Here's another question for, why would the LCPtracker contractor intake form be a Microsoft form leading to scheduling tool if a prime recipients are the ones to set them up?
Yeah, so specifically in the new process, the contractor intake form, when that is filled out, that will go to the prime recipient. They won't get a confirmation email asking to schedule a call with us. It's only for the admin intake form when the prime recipient and their staff is getting set up.
Thank you. Do we have Mr. Piles back yet?
No, not yet.
Okay. John Sullivan, this one could be for you. Are there going to be any exemptions given to the weekly requirement?
So this is a very complicated question, but the short answer is no. But the longer answer, since Gary isn't here, I will get into it a little bit. So there are two weekly requirements in the weekly payroll requirement that can be pulled apart. There's the weekly certified payroll reporting, which LCPtracker takes care of. And then there is weekly pay, and we'll just call it pay cadence. Both of these are required by DBA. The pay, so there is a waiver process within DBA through DOL, but DOL considers this a statutory requirement even under Davis-Bacon related acts, which is what we're under now. So they cannot give relief to it, is their current position. So as of now, it is mandatory and cannot be waived. MDO does not have the authority to waive a statute, a piece of statute. Only regulatory rules. So no, sorry.
Can you guys hear me now?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. So sorry about that. We came on early. Unfortunately, just a technology glitch.
Gary, I'm finishing up answering a question. I did want to make sure that folks knew that, if you are having major problems with weekly payroll, not weekly payroll reporting, because that's LCPtracker, but weekly payroll pay cadence, you should reach out to your point of contact, and they can, run that question to us. We would need some very specific information on the payroll system. Most large payroll systems that are being used in the United States are able to toggle. I feel like I'm very much oversimplifying it, but able to toggle over or switch over to weekly pay. There is a question if you have an organized workforce, what that means if that pay cadence is memorialized in that collective bargaining agreement. We need to talk about that too. But we have been talking through this issue with other programs, so we are ready to tackle those issues too. Hopefully soon we will get a definitive list of creative solutions that do not involve changing your payroll system, but they are difficult in other ways, but they're all doable. And we will find something that works for you. So don't hesitate to reach out if that's an issue. All right, Gary, back to you.
Not sure how
We're
far
good.
along we got. I see someone running slides. I appreciate that. I can go ahead and advance on the slides. All right. Just in the interest of time, if you have a tribal recipient, there are special rules. LCPtracker does address any and all the complexities that have been encountered, such as overtime and so forth. Let's go to the next slide, which are the NASEO specific ones. Should be some questions and the answers in blue. In the interest of time, LCPtracker, like a lot of these compliance systems that have been around for decades, there are lessons learned that we can share. I want to, the third question, again, understanding that some of the folks on the line here may be supporting multiple DOE projects. You as an individual can have access to multiple projects to manage your own portfolio. We've talked about the weekly pay performance. When we mentioned the guide, if we go to the website, again, we kind of ran out of time. We do have a user-friendly guide that has flowcharts and so forth. It also lists, the 1 hour of training or perhaps more, depending on how much you use LCPtracker and where to take those. Next topic I did want to raise is that because of the nature of Davis-Bacon type work, and whether it's applicable or not, a lot of that is fact specific. If someone just bringing a box into a building, it's a difference if they have to, remove a wall to bring in the building. So construction type activities could be triggered. But the concept is there's an expectation that if there's a question, does Davis-Bacon apply, that your subrecipient has done some analysis, you've looked at it, and then worked it up through us so that we can help provide some direction. But again, there's an expectation to do some analysis yourselves. We've clarified that the spreadsheet is for those that don't have one of those existing systems. Again, consult with your team when it comes to applicability. We showed where you can go into the system and indicate if you have work there or not. We did have a question about home in here. I can't really see that, but I think the answer is that is an IRA where DBA traditionally doesn't apply.
Gary, could I throw some legal
Absolutely.
gray area into that one. So it does not apply to the Homes Here program, mainly because it is funded by the IRA, and the type of contract it is does not qualify for coverage, or I shouldn't say contract, agreement. So the IRA is not a Davis-Bacon related act, so it doesn't cover just funding that is distributed under it like it does for the bipartisan infrastructure law and other laws. But there has to be a traditional DBA analysis done if you're conducting work under a traditional procurement with DOE, which is likely not the case, or which has become a little bit more common, a cooperative agreement. If you are doing a cooperative agreement under an IRA funded program, a traditional DBA analysis still has to be done. So for Homes Here programs, does not apply because it's financial assistance outside of cooperative agreements, as far as I understand it. But don't extrapolate this answer to other programs, please.
And we'll capture that in the final version of the slides. Thanks, John. Let's go to the next slide really quick. This is 1 out of 3. Did cover most of these. We had a question there kind of similar to home rebates, and then solar for all, which is, as we understand, perhaps an EPA project. Again, this system that we have is for DOE only. Most of this is covered. Covered. Again, folks can be assigned to multiple projects. Let's go to the last slide real quick. We covered that. This next question, again, I put this in the category of, this is a weekly pay. And John, feel free to chime on this one. But I would say that there's a risk of taking an approach where you perhaps think Davis-Bacon isn't applicable, but the Department of Labor would disagree. And there could be some negative consequences there. And again, I apologize for losing connectivity, as I believe we are quickly running out of time. Kirsten, did you want to chime in on some of the perhaps questions that popped up in chat that I'm not seeing?
Yes, we did get a number of questions in the chat, a number of which we kind of tried to go through while you were off, Gary. But seeing that it is like a minute ago, would it be fair to say that we will collect all the questions that we didn't get to, Gary, and we can answer them after the webinar?
Definitely, we'll do that. And again, thanks everyone for a Friday afternoon joining us. Davis-Bacon has been around a long time. We certainly didn't want to do what we did back in the ARA days and use paper. Embracing a consistent software solution makes sense. As you see, we're setting up tools. Ironically, the time it took Josh to talk through the process of checking an ID actually is probably longer than the actual process of having your ID validated so you can be added to the system. And we believe once this is up and running, projects are in there, wage determinations are loaded, all the subrecipients are in the system and using it. From what we've seen, they're loading up their payrolls and they're being certified and submitted, and we have the records. So we want this to be boring when it comes to the implementation side, and we also want it to be reliable and safe, secure, and then we have the records as well. And as a footnote to the Department of Labor, actually will have access to this site as well, so they can come in also. So with that, please do visit our website, and please do look at the guide, which gets into detail with nice flow charts about how the process works, and then roles and responsibilities during the execution phase. And again, we can follow up if we need to. Kirsten, if we need to have a follow-on meeting. But again, we will commit to answering those questions and updating the slides and getting those back to you. Again, thanks thanks to all Team Accenture and feds that joined us.
Great. Yes, thank you so much. Thank you to all the speakers and to the participants. I will also put my email in the chat. If anybody has further questions, please feel free to reach out and I will write to the appropriate people. And with that, we'll conclude this webinar. And just a reminder for my grid resilience grant implementation cohort folks that we will meet in the Zoom meeting just in a minute. So please join the regular Zoom meeting invite that we usually use. And for everybody else, thank you so much and have a great rest of the Friday and a happy weekend. Thank you.
Thanks.